I thought you were fired.
No, I fired Dave. I thought you were fired.
No, I just lost my voice.
Oh, right. Well, this week we're drinking this thing. It's called Easy Rider and super local. It's like Wonga Valley or something. Golden ale, it's like summer. Spring's back, getting ready to party. I don't know, chilled back.
It's tasty.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Cheers.
How's your week been?
Well. So the Royal Commission into Trade Union Corruption has been ticking over for the last couple of months, and basically what it's looking at is corruption in the trade union movement. So the unions have had a really long historical ties to the Labor Party because they were like the Workers' Party back in the day, and that's meant that a lot of big Labor politicians have been called up into the witness box for this commission, including Bill Shorten. And so there's a whole lot of people on the Labor side of politics who have called this commission a bit of a political witch hunt because it's been so heavily focused on the ALP and the unions.
So the Royal Commission is headed up by a guy called Dyson Heydon. Now he's a former High Court judge and he's right-wing, so a lot of the time his beliefs line up with that of the Liberal Party. Anyway, it was found out that later this year he was meant to speak at a Liberal Party fundraiser. Since that came to light, he's backed away from it and said that he won't appear, but it still looks bad for his involvement in the Royal Commission.
So this looks pretty bad for Dyson Heydon because it raises some questions about whether he can be impartial in his day job as a Royal Commissioner and then by night be actively involved in fundraising for a political party.
We've also seen some controversy in state politics this week after the Liberal Party seemingly lost $1.5 million.
Yeah, so they've missed the money from their campaign funds, and basically what's happened is the former state director, Damien Mantuck, has embezzled $1.5 million over 4 years to fund a very lavish lifestyle.
It's just kind of embarrassing for the Liberal Party because this has been going on for 4 years now and it's only just coming to light. So the big news this week has been the stalling of the Adani coal mine. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Adani is a big Indian resources company that want to build a really big new coal mine in the Galilee Basin in Queensland. And if it gets built, this will actually be the largest coal mine in Australia. But a group of environmentalists have found a way to challenge the approval of the mine under a bit of legislation called the Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, or the EPBC.
Now, the EPBC Act requires that the Environment Minister consider the impact that the project might have on endangered species within the area. And the environmental activists have found that 2 species, the yakka skink and the ornamental snake, are at risk of becoming extinct if this project goes ahead. Now, this is pretty unprecedented because only about 1 in 200 of these challenges is actually ever successful. So what it kind of represents is the Environment Minister not doing his job properly.
This challenge has really pissed off the government, and it's decided that this EPBC legislation is allowing environmental activists to kind of hold these big companies to ransom and shut down infrastructure projects. So what the government's going to do is change the law and make sure those big resources companies don't run the risk of really long, protracted legal battles with a bunch of hippie activists.
But for the government, it's kind of not about the skink or the snake. What it's more about is the fact that these fringe groups now have the ability to hold major infrastructure projects at ransom, stopping them from going ahead, which can cost billions of dollars and can also cost thousands of jobs.
Well, actually, I disagree. I think this is about the skink and the snake in some small way, because what the government's saying is this is a values judgment and 10,000 jobs is more important than a skink and a snake and the protection of that species going into the future. And from there, it's not such a big jump to say, well, 10,000 jobs is more important than a really big old growth forest, or 10,000 jobs is more important than having clean water for us to drink, or 10,000 jobs is more important than having a clean atmosphere for us to breathe. And, you know, where does it end? So a couple of weeks ago we talked about wind farms, but today we've got a dumb question about coal. Holly's tweeted us with, what's wrong with building new coal mines?
Well, the reason coal mines are so attractive is that compared to sources such as wind, coal's really cheap, which means people, especially people in developing countries, can access coal energy really cheap, and it can often lead to people who have never had power experiencing power for the first time. And that's kind of what Adani's trying to do here. They're trying to dig coal out of Queensland, send it off to India and provide electricity to people who have never experienced it before.
But the problem with coal is that it's a really dirty fuel source, and burning it releases a lot of carbon into the atmosphere, which is kind of what global warming is all about. And so as the world moves away from fossil fuels as a source of energy, the demand for coal is going to fall, and the price of coal is going to fall as well, because it's already really cheap, but once even less people want to buy it, it's going to get cheaper. And the problem with that is that digging it out of the ground and then burning it to make energy is not going to be profitable in 5 or 10 years' time.
And the other reason why it's kind of not that good of an idea is that it's finite. As a natural resource, sooner or later we are going to run out of coal, which means that we're going to have to look for other forms of electricity. So why not start looking now?
That's all this week from Politics at the Belleville. I'm Harriet.
And I'm Brendan.
If you want to hear more from us without having to watch Brendan's gross moustache, we actually have a segment on Catalyst Magazine's official podcast, Cataclysm.
Yeah, just check it out on iTunes, search Cataclysm. Make sure you send us in your dumb questions.
See you next week.